Advocacy has always been at the heart of Autumn's mission. Since its founding, Autumn members have understood the power of innovation and the critical role policy plays in unleashing its potential. In 1980, the Bayh-Dole Act allowed for uniform retention of federally funded innovations. Before that, there was an ability for a university to retain rights to an individual event, but they would have to request that on a case-by-case basis.
I was on Senator Bayh's staff in 1978 when we had some universities come by and tell us about how hard it was for them to commercialize technologies because before the Bayh-Dole Act, the government took inventions away from them. Before Autumn, it was called SUPA, the Society of University Patent Administrators. We were sitting in our office one day and Ralph Davis from Purdue came by, who was from Indiana, and they had a couple other people from SUPA, and they talked to us about the problem. We agreed to put a bill in. And that was 1978. I worked for the General Counsel of the Senate Judiciary Committee at that time, and he was invited to come down and talk to this group in Atlanta. And so he hurt his back about a week before the meeting was supposed to start, so he asked me to fill in. I was like a junior research person. So I wound up going on a plane to Atlanta to talk to SUPA. And I'd never talked in public before. There was a huge meeting. They had 50 people there. It was the biggest meeting that SUPA had ever had. And I talked, and it was very intimidating because everyone in that audience knew more about the subject matter than I did. But I'll never forget as a young staffer how kind they were. I remember Larry Gilbert, who then was at Boston University, complimented me because I actually called people sir and ma'am when I took questions because my parents taught me that way. And so it's had a huge impact on me. Again, we would not have the Bayh-Dole Act but for SUPA and in the later Autumn because they were the key in really convincing people to change 40 years of technology policy because we could show them through the experience of the universities that what they were doing before was just wasting billions of dollars of taxpayer funding. And I've been an Autumn member ever since then, or a SUPA member and then an Autumn member.
Since then, Autumn has been an advocate on Capitol Hill. From protecting intellectual property rights to shaping policies that accelerate the commercialization of federally funded research, we've ensured the voice of technology transfer professionals is heard loud and clear.
I got involved in Autumn at a time when we were dealing with the pending legislation to rewrite all the patent laws in the United States. It was a very big challenge because we wanted it to be done right if it was going to be done. And so Autumn, in conjunction with the other higher ed university associations, did a lot of work on that issue for 3 or 4 or 5 years. And so out of that, we did eventually get a bill passed that we could sort of live with. It hasn't always worked out the way we wanted it to, but it's kind of set the tone for how the different higher ed players were going to try to earn a seat at the table by working together. And so that's what we've achieved. So I thought that was a good way to start.
A significant milestone in recent years, the CHIPS and Science Act of 2022 was a game changer for innovation in the U.S. This landmark legislation authorized robust financial investments to boost semiconductor research, manufacturing, and workforce development. It set the framework for future spending decisions by Congress. Autumn played a vital role in advocating for this legislation, ensuring that technology transfer professionals had a voice in shaping its provisions.
The Bayh-Dole Act was absolutely instrumental in creating our industry. It allowed universities to retain the rights to their inventions and then commercialize them to amazing effect. The one thing that was missing was the capacity building to provide the infrastructure that's sorely needed to advance these innovations to market. Universities, hospitals, research institutes, government labs have done a phenomenal job with what they have. But the influx of support from the CHIPS and Science Act will create a monumental advantage that will benefit the United States and the world at large.
Over the last several years, Autumn has taken a heavy lead in advocating for strong intellectual property rights, strong grant opportunities in the innovation and ecosystem development space. The passage of the U.S. CHIPS and Science Act has been one of those pinnacle events that Autumn was heavily involved in. While others were involved as well, Autumn really stepped into that advocacy role in that legislation. We really look forward to the time when Autumn continues to be invited to the table to discuss the policy issues, the legislative issues, the intellectual property issues that we are facing on a daily basis in our society, both in the U.S. and worldwide.
Today, Autumn's advocacy efforts are stronger than ever, continuing to help shape national policies that advance technology transfer, support research, and fuel economic development.
Having the opportunity to go to the capital of the United States of America and talk about our programs and our initiatives and our membership and bring that to our legislators and our leaders in the field of government has been a wonderful opportunity.
What Autumn is doing in terms of its advocacy work right now in sort of supporting activities that do end up benefiting research directly, like the CHIPS and Science Act, or the work that we're doing right now in defense of Bayh-Dole, certainly has this trickle-down effect of really making sure that tech transfer continues to be a viable thing from which our researchers can benefit.
We've clearly become a major player in DC, at least, and that's nice. We have the attention of key committees and staff positions in Congress, as well as elected officials. I know that certain senators, either individually or through their staff, call us when they have questions about legislation they know is going to have an impact on our area of interest. So to have become the go-to source for these things is a great indication that we're serious business here.
We have a consistent and a clear message, and we stick to that message. And whenever we take positions, and we don't always take a position, we are an organization that's run largely by volunteers. So we have to be picky about what we want to speak out on. If we tried to do everything, we probably wouldn't be effective at anything. But when we speak, we are careful to make sure that we support our positions with reasoned analyses, with data, with evidence, with our expertise. And that lends itself to people seeing us as a credible source of information, so that when someone has questions about how do we better foster innovation, they want to talk to Autumn because we are a credible voice in that space. And I think that's something that other organizations could emulate.
Advocacy is more than a strategy. It's our commitment to ensuring a brighter future through innovation. Together, we're making history.